I was about 4 hours into my shift, driving through the middle of nowhere in southern Wyoming, when the voice came through my CB radio. It was late, just past midnight, and the highway was dark, with only the occasional pair of headlights passing in the opposite direction. I had the radio on for company, tuned to the trucker channel, though the airwaves had been mostly silent all night. Then I heard it. A woman's voice, panicked and trembling. "Anyone out there? Please, I need help." I grabbed the mic. "Yeah, this is Rig 22, I'm listening. What's going on?" "I'm parked at a rest stop off Highway 287. Some guy's trying to get into my truck. He's been banging on the doors for 5 minutes, and I don't know what to do." Her fear was palpable, and it sent a chill down my spine. "Stay calm," I said, trying to sound confident, though my own heartbeat was starting to pick up. "Are your doors locked? Curtains drawn?" "Yes, but he's not stopping. He's circling the truck now. I think he's got something in his hand, like a crowbar or something." "Okay, listen. Don't leave your cab, no matter what. Keep the doors locked and don't engage with him. I'm about 20 minutes from Highway 287. Can you hold on until I get there?" "I'll try," she said, her voice cracking. The radio went quiet for a moment, and I pushed my foot down on the accelerator. I wasn't even sure why I felt so compelled to help. It wasn't like I was armed or trained to deal with something like this, but leaving her to fend for herself felt wrong. Then her voice came back, this time in a whisper. "He's standing at the driver's side door now, just staring. I can't see his face. He's wearing some kind of hood." "Don't let him know you're on the radio," I said quickly. "Pretend you're asleep. Sometimes that's enough to make them move on." Her voice cut out suddenly, and all I could hear was static. "Hello? Are you still there?" I asked, gripping the mic tightly. No response. I sped down the highway, my eyes scanning every sign for the rest stop she'd mentioned. Finally, I spotted it. A small pull-off area with a single building and a few parking spaces for trucks. The lot was dimly lit by a couple of flickering overhead lights. As I pulled in, I saw her truck immediately. A white Freightliner with its cab curtains drawn. But something was off. The area was completely silent, and there was no sign of anyone around. I parked my rig and climbed out cautiously, a flashlight in hand. "Hello?" I called, my voice echoing in the stillness. "You still in there?" No answer. I approached the cab and knocked lightly on the door. "It's Rig 22. I was talking to you on the radio. Are you okay?" Nothing. I tried the passenger side door, but it was locked. Then I walked around to the driver's side. That's when I saw it. Deep gouges in the metal near the door handle, like someone had been trying to pry it open. "Hey, if you're in there, open up!" I shouted, my nerves starting to fray. I stepped back and scanned the area with my flashlight. The lot was empty except for a couple of parked cars near the restroom building. I was about to give up and call the cops when I noticed something lying on the ground near the back of her truck. It was a CB radio mic, the cord frayed and torn. My stomach sank. I followed the beam of my flashlight toward the restroom building. The door was slightly ajar, swinging gently in the wind. I hesitated, every instinct screaming at me to turn back, but I couldn't just leave without knowing what had happened to her. Pushing the door open, I stepped inside. The restroom was eerily quiet, the kind of quiet that makes your ears ring. My flashlight swept over the stalls, the cracked tiles, the grimy sinks. No one was there. Then I saw it, a smear of something dark on the floor, leading toward the back exit. My heart was pounding now, my pulse roaring in my ears. I stepped outside into the night, following the trail. It led to the edge of the lot, where the asphalt gave way to a patch of scrubland. And then, just as abruptly as it started, the trail disappeared. I searched the area for another 20 minutes, calling out, but there was no sign of her, or the man she'd been so afraid of. Defeated, I returned to my rig and called the local authorities. They came out and took my statement, but there wasn't much they could do without more information. The truck was registered to a woman named Kelly Stanton, but when they ran her information, they discovered something chilling. Kelly had been reported missing over a year ago, last seen at another rest stop hundreds of miles away. I didn't sleep that night. To this day, I don't know if what I experienced was real or if someone was playing an elaborate, cruel prank. But every time I pass an empty rest stop on a lonely highway, I can't help but wonder if someone out there is still calling for help, and if anyone's answering. Driving a semi-truck at night is a lonely job, but it's one I've grown accustomed to over the years. The hum of the engine, the darkness stretching endlessly ahead. It's just part of the job. I was hauling a load of furniture through the back roads of West Texas, avoiding the main highways to save on time and tolls. The sun had set hours ago, and the GPS said I had another 4 hours to go before I reached my delivery point. The road was dead quiet, no headlights ahead or behind. Just me, my rig, and the occasional animal darting across the road. That's when I saw it. A set of hazard lights flashing in the distance. As I got closer, the headlights illuminated what appeared to be a roadblock. 2 sawhorses stretched across the road with a beat-up sedan parked to the side. A man stood in the middle of the road, waving a flashlight in my direction. Something about it felt off. Why here? Why now? I slowed the truck, my hands gripping the wheel tighter. It wasn't unusual to come across accidents or broken down cars, but this didn't sit right. The guy with the flashlight started waving more frantically as I got closer, motioning for me to stop. My gut screamed at me to keep going, but I didn't want to risk hitting him, or someone actually in need. I brought the truck to a stop about 50 feet from the roadblock, keeping the engine running. Rolling down the window just enough to be heard, I yelled, "You all right? Need help?" The man stepped closer, the flashlight beam bouncing around erratically. Yeah, car broke down, and we just need a hand. Can you step out?" "We?" My eyes scanned the area, and that's when I noticed movement near the sedan. Another figure, this one crouched low, slipped out of the shadows and darted behind my trailer. My heart raced. "No can do," I said firmly, rolling up the window. The man started shouting, banging on the side of my truck. That's when I heard it, a metallic clink at the rear of the trailer. Someone was messing with the cargo doors. I threw the truck into reverse, the engine roaring as I backed up toward the roadblock. The man in the flashlight jumped out of the way, cursing loudly. I hit the brakes hard, shaking the truck and hopefully whoever was at the back. Then I slammed it into drive and hit the gas. The truck lurched forward, and I plowed through the flimsy roadblock, the sawhorses splintering beneath the wheels. In my side mirror, I saw the 2 men scrambling back to the sedan. My adrenaline was pumping, but I wasn't out of the woods yet. The sedan's headlights flicked on, and they were in pursuit. They tailgated me for the next few miles, their high beams blinding me through the mirrors. I tried to call 911, but out here, the signal was non-existent. I knew I couldn't outrun them, not in an 18-wheeler, but I also wasn't about to pull over. The road twisted and turned through the hills, and the sedan kept up, occasionally swerving into the opposite lane, as if trying to overtake me. At one point, they pulled up alongside the cab, a passenger rolling down the window. I caught a glimpse of his face. young, angry, desperate. He held something in his hand, but I couldn't tell what it was. I jerked the wheel, veering slightly toward their lane. They swerved back, nearly losing control on the loose gravel. I kept going, pushing the truck harder than I ever had before. Finally, I saw it. A gas station lit up like a beacon in the darkness. I laid on the horn as I barreled into the lot, the truck skidding to a halt. The sedan stopped at the entrance, its occupants clearly debating their next move. But when a couple of late-night patrons stepped out of the station, the sedan peeled out and disappeared into the night. Inside the station, I called the cops and waited for them to arrive. They found scratches on the trailer's lock, but no serious damage. The officers told me it wasn't the first time they'd heard of fake roadblocks in the area, targeting truckers and late-night travelers. I finished my haul the next day, but I've never taken that route again. Out there on those lonely roads, you're on your own. And sometimes, stopping to help can put you in more danger than you ever imagined. There's an unspoken rule among truckers: never stop overnight in an isolated rest area if you can help it. But rules get bent when exhaustion sets in, and that's exactly how I ended up parked in the middle of nowhere, trying to get a few hours of sleep before my next haul. It was just past 1 a.m., and I was driving through a stretch of highway in rural Arkansas. The next truck stop wasn't for another 50 miles, and my eyelids were getting heavier with each passing minute. I'd already pushed past my legal hours of service, and it felt like my body was on autopilot. The moment I saw the rest area sign, I veered off the highway without a second thought. The place was as bare bones as they come: a gravel lot, 2 picnic tables, and a vending machine with a cracked glass front. A single overhead light flickered faintly, casting long, uneven shadows across the lot. I pulled my rig into a spot near the light, turned off the engine, and set my alarm for 5 a.m. The cab wasn't the Ritz, but after years on the road, I'd learned how to make it work. I locked the doors, pulled the curtains tight, and climbed into the makeshift bed behind the driver's seat. The silence out there was eerie, just the occasional hum of the highway in the distance and the soft chirp of crickets. It didn't take long for sleep to take over. I don't know how long I'd been asleep when the first sound woke me: a faint tap on the passenger side window. My eyes snapped open, my heart pounding in the darkness. For a moment I lay still, trying to convince myself I'd imagined it. But then it came again. Tap, tap, tap. I reached for the flashlight I kept by my bed and clicked it on, shining it toward the window. The curtain blocked most of the view, but I could see enough to tell there wasn't anyone standing there. Maybe it was a branch in the wind or a stray rock kicked up by a passing car. I tried to shake it off, but my gut wouldn't let me. Something about it didn't feel right. I checked the locks on the doors again, just to be sure, and lay back down, telling myself it was nothing. That's when I heard it, a soft creak coming from the back of the truck. Every muscle in my body tensed. The trailer. Someone was back there. I grabbed my phone and hesitated. Calling the cops out here would take time, and they might not even take me seriously. After all, what was I going to say? That I thought I heard something. Still, I couldn't ignore the growing sense of dread creeping up my spine. Suddenly, a loud bang shook the entire truck. It sounded like something, or someone, had slammed into the side of the trailer. I bolted upright, my hand gripping the tire iron I kept under my seat. "Who's there?" I shouted, my voice cracking with fear. No response. I debated staying in the cab, but knew I wouldn't be able to sleep until I checked it out. Against every instinct, I opened the door and stepped into the cool night air. My flashlight beam cut through the darkness as I walked around to the back of the truck. The lock on the trailer doors was still intact, but there were fresh scratches on the metal, like someone had been trying to pry it open. "Hey!" I shouted, hoping to scare off whoever might still be out there. "I've already called the cops." Silence. I turned to scan the lot and nearly dropped the flashlight. There, near the tree line, I saw movement, a shadow slipping between the trees. My heart was racing now, every instinct screaming at me to get back in the truck. I backed toward the cab, keeping the flashlight trained on the tree line. Just as I reached the door, I saw them. Two figures standing just beyond the edge of the light, their faces obscured. They didn't move, didn't make a sound. I scrambled back into the cab and locked the doors behind me. My hands shook as I tried to start the engine. The headlights flickered on, illuminating the lot. That's when I saw them again. More figures emerging from the shadows, maybe 5 or 6 this time. They didn't run or chase after me. They just stood there, watching as I threw the truck into gear and sped out of the lot. I didn't stop until I reached a well-lit truck stop 50 miles down the road. My hands were still trembling as I parked and stepped out to inspect the trailer. The scratches on the lock were deeper than I'd realized, and there were muddy handprints smeared across the back doors. I don't know who they were or what they wanted, but I've never stopped at an isolated rest area since. Some rules aren't meant to be broken. Thanks so much for listening to Nightmare Narratives. We hope you enjoyed these truly terrifying stories. If you did, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so you'll know when we post new videos every Tuesday and Friday at 10 a.m. Central Time. If you have a scary story you'd like to hear read on the channel, email us at officialnightmarenarratives@gmail.com. and you might just hear your story in a future episode. Thanks again for listening, and stay spooky, friends. We'll catch you in the next one.